Haunted Happenings with the Taunton Paranormal Group. I'm your host, Jake, and with me, of course, is Lou. Tonight we have a special episode for you. We're coming from Monroe, Connecticut, and we have Lorraine Warren and Father Bob Bailey with us. I'd like to thank you both very much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for allowing us into your home to speak with you.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. Would you like to start some questions?
Sure. Now, Miss Warren, when did you realize that you had a psychic ability?
9 years of age. It probably was earlier than that, but what I could see were lights around people. And I felt everybody could see this. And I was the type of child that didn't want to be different. I wanted to fit in. And I was in Laurelton Hall from grammar school. And it was all Catholic private girls' school. And I made the mistake of telling my French teacher, Sister Joseph, who was also my art teacher, that her lights were brighter than Mother Superior's. And that didn't go over very well. It didn't fly. didn't fly. And so with that, not wanting to be different, they tried to understand what I meant when I could see these lights around people. So as the result of feeling I was putting pressure on them or making them upset, I suppressed it, but it did not go away. And I began realizing that it wasn't just people that had lights around them, that it was animals that had lights. It was flowers, it was trees, it was everybody. I could see these lights around. And from that, I developed this thing about, I was almost fanatical about the fact that I couldn't bear to see somebody cut a tree down.
Oh.
And of course, my love of animals, probably that is the reason. Because of this, I told you about being able to soon be with the big animals.
Right.
And I'm sure that I'm going to see the auras, and I want to see the auras of these animals also. I've never been that close. You know, I've never been in Africa,
Right.
or where these large animals are. But it started about that time. I did suppress it. I really did suppress it. I didn't talk about it because nobody else talked about it. That meant that I was the only one.
And was it confusing to you, maybe not knowing what was happening?
Yes, it was. Until I met Ed. Now, I had no interest in going out with boys. My schooling was important to me. My family, the things I was doing for the church, all of this was important to me. But having a boyfriend wasn't. And the only reason I can think of for that is because of the fact I was in an all-girls school, and I was only 16 years old. But I was home for the summer, and at all. I didn't want to say to them, I'm really not interested, because I would seem strange or different if I wasn't interested. And so as a result of this, they said, he's a lifeguard during the day. And I had gone to the beach, but I had never gone to the beach where he was a lifeguard. And then he's an usher in the theater at night.
Oh.
And so I thought, that's nice.
There you go.
That's nice. Now, we go in, and they introduced me to Ed. I want to tell you, I looked at him from the shoes he had on that were polished. An air raid. Seems foreign.
Oh wow.
But this was 1943, and there was an air raid, and there's a lot of defense factories in Bridgeport. We had moved to Bridgeport from Milford, and so we had to wait for an all clear.
Oh.
When I think about it now, you know, we didn't think much about that at all, but I think, you know, if we were a little more educated, we realized how scary it really was.
Oh, absolutely.
And then later, you know, we found out that these submarines came so close and like that.
Mm.
So he left the theater with us. And he said, I'll buy all you girls a Coke at Rich's. We were on Old Mill Green on Boston Avenue, Bridgeport. And Rich's was like a little ice cream place. So we went in, and I ordered an ice cream soda. I never drank like Cokes and stuff like that. And I still don't. I still don't like.
I don't either.
Makes two of us. So anyway, he kidded me. He kidded me from then on all the time that he knew I was a gold digger from the first night he met me. Because I liked ice cream soda. And he, you know, all the other girls, you know, ordering nickel Cokes.
Oh.
That was a few years back.
Yes,
Yeah.
honey, that's few. So then we walked. He said, I'll walk along with you home. His house was going to come first. And he's walking backwards and talking to us. He knew these girls. And talking to us. And then we got to his house. And the girl said, wow, we're already to your house, Ed. And with that, he started to run across the street. He says, okay, nice to meet you, Lorraine. And he ran across the street and up the stairs into his home. And I didn't see that young, athletic, 142-pound boy. I seen my husband as he looked just before he passed. And I wrote in my diary, I'll spend the rest of my life with you.
So it was destiny that you met that night.
I guess it must have been. It must have been destiny, because the way we fit together, you know, we're both artists. We made our living as artists. Art funded us so that we didn't have to charge people even expenses to go out to their homes. And we never took money for doing it. And so then, as the result of this whole thing, we began to realize that we were meant to be together. But when we were married, let me explain more of it to you. We were married on survivor's leave. The last ship that my husband made 4 trips across the North Atlantic under fire before he turned 18. He entered on his 17th birthday.
Oh my God.
And he tried to get in at 16 and they found out that he forged. So as a result of that, we were married on survivor's leave. We were married in St. Charles in Bridgeport, and we got permission from the diocese to be married at night because he only had like, I think it was a 2-day pass or something. I'll never forget that he got married in a wet uniform. I'll never forget, because he wanted to be married in his whites. And so then he went back to base, And when he went back to base, the Catholic priest, the chaplain, said, "You were just married." He said, "Yeah, who told you, Father?" And I don't know who told him, but anyway, he said, "I'm going to try to get you a couple of more days with your bride." I got pregnant. So, and with that, the war ended in 45 in Europe, and we thought he'd be discharged. He became a hero for saving this man. He was one of 69 survivors on 2 ships in the North Atlantic in February. It went down. Most of them either froze to death or drowned or were burnt to death.
My God.
And so all of these things were, in a way, they were kind of miraculous. There's a lot to tell you about it, and maybe you should know it in order to know me. But while Ed made one trip across the North Atlantic before we married, he never made a trip across the North Atlantic after we were married because the war was ending then. And this one trip, he got off his ship in Scotland, and he was alone, and he looked in a puddle, is how he put it. He stepped over a puddle, and he looked in it and knew something was terribly wrong with me.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My appendix ruptured. The doctors did not want to operate because they told my parents it was useless, that I wasn't going to make it because the poison had gone already through my system. I had an experience where I could see my father outside of my room at this Catholic hospital. I could see a nun, and I could see my mother at the foot of my bed. And I could see a sailor kneeling down next to my bed.
That was your husband?
He was my boyfriend.
Oh, boyfriend at the time.
Yes. And I was above it. I guess I was out of my body. I knew nothing about being out of body, though. But that's what was happening to me. So things like this, yes, they must have been predestined, as you put it. I believe that wholeheartedly. And so with all of this, when we did get married, and thought he was going to be discharged, he was sent to Japan. He was sent to the West Coast for the invasion of Japan. If he was, I would have never had my husband.
Wow.
I would have never, ever had him. His ship was numbered, and I knew all that. I have a letter. I didn't even know this was possible. I have a letter. I have all his letters in my Laurelton Hall briefcase. And he tells about the commander telling them that there was going to be a bomb drop that could end the war. But of course we don't believe that. That is what one of his letters states.
Wow.
I didn't know that it was ever known to anybody. I never knew that. And then, you know, that's all packed away. Right now, I'm still not to a time where I can read things like that, you know, all these letters. I can't do that at all. So he was one of the men that they picked on certain ships to go in to Japan as voice radio. They asked him if he knew anything about voice radio. They asked a lot of sailors on a lot of ships. Now, not many men knew anything about voice radio, but he did. And so he was sent into Nagoya. In 2000, and going into 2001, we were in Japan. We worked with Buddhist monks in the mountains of Japan regarding exorcisms and hauntings. It was fun. Oh, it was fabulous. It was just absolutely fabulous. Ed spoke some Japanese because he had gone in as report director, and so he understood some Japanese. I understood nothing. It's a very hard language, but I certainly understood the people themselves. You know, you don't need to
Right.
sometimes speak the language, but you are
Okay.
able somehow to communicate without speaking a language. And so what happened was, we were there, and one night at dinner, this was all filmed for national TV in Japan, and these Buddhist monks were willing to go along with this, which was really different, very different, that they would be willing to
Really?
go along. Oh, yes, Buddhist religion,
Oh, right.
oh, God, but they're beautiful. Oh, God, those priests are beautiful. When Ed and I arrived, were two Roman Catholics from America. When we arrived, this long driveway, these monks were all lining it with tapers. You felt so humbled by that, so humbled by it. And we did investigate quite a few hauntings. We were involved in exorcisms that were there. The last exorcism that we were involved in, I knew something was wrong with Ed. And he said to them, I have to go in the car. There's a funny cold that's coming over me. A funny cold. I thought he was coming down with a cold. So on the way back, flying back, I have to backtrack. At dinner this one night, I said in English something that really embarrassed my husband. I said, are we going anywhere near Nagoya? And they said, yes. I said, it would mean the world to me if I could stand on the dock where my husband stood when he got the letter that our daughter was born, and go to the other part of this dock where the ship came that would bring him home. This is what I said.
Okay.
Japan now is nothing like the Japan Ed knew. Japan right now is like a massive, massive Disneyland with car makers all over the place. Gorgeous buildings. I'm driving a Honda. But I don't know how my husband would feel about that because we always had American cars. But I like that little Honda. And this is the second one I bought. So, or leased. I'm leasing.
Oh.
So, anyway, it is
Better
beautiful.
on gas anyway.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful. I'm sorry, honey. So, we're having dinner for the second time this one night, and the camera crew's going back to Tokyo. And I thought, why aren't we going back to Tokyo? You know, everything about us was being filmed. And that night, we were staying in this hotel. And, they're mansions. You should see these hotels. We were on the 42nd floor.
Oh, wow.
And Ed looked out the window. He was standing there. And I heard him say something. And I went over and I said, honey, what did you just say? And I just said, honey, what did you say? I said, Nagoya, another time, another place. And he put his arm around me and said, "You don't think it looked like this when I was here?" He
Right.
said, see, there was no naval base. Ed lived with MacArthur's army as a naval man. But he said, "You don't think it looked anything like this?" He said, "The only way I could find my way back if I ever went off base would be through the smokestacks."
Wow.
So then that day we were involved in huntings around there, like where the samurai warrior had his home and was tore down. Ed was given the samurai warrior's hat and everything. It's downstairs, yes.
Wow.
Beautiful. So we were doing that. We were having dinner there again that night. And then on the way back, we were supposed to be going back to Tokyo. And we were going to drive back. We weren't taking the fast train. You know, they have the fast train.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you should see how fast you get around there. Wow.
Yeah.
You really get around fast. I'd probably go to New York in 10 minutes.
Wow. My goodness.
And you go by Fuji and everything. So anyway, we're going. And I said, "We're not going back the same way we came." And I said, "Susie," this one guy, Susie, he was the chauffeur. "Susie, are we going where I think we're going?" He said, "Yes." They got permission to go through the archives, their media people, to go through the archives to find right where Ed was.
Really?
Everything there is brand new. It's brand new. It's painful too. And that area is all boarded off with great big fences. It's a Mitsubishi warehouse. That's where he lived with MacArthur's army.
Wow.
His office was like on a second floor. They lit it. Nothing had changed. The wainscoting, nothing. They had it all lit. He got emotional. He got
I'm sure.
very emotional.
God.
You
He
imagine.
walked down the dock.
Mhm.
Then he came back and he put his arm around me and he said, "This is where I was standing when I got the word that Judy was born."
Wow.
And then he walked up and he said, "And this is where the Hat Creek came in, the ship that took me home." On the way back on the plane, he said, "Honey, we just made full circle in our lives." He collapsed soon after we came home and never regained.
I'm so sorry.
But why did God let all of that come to us? Why did He really allow all of that for us to go back there
Right,
again?
in a full circle,
We made,
the closure.
we just made full circle in our lives.
Wow.
He was a guy, he would never, a clergy would say to him, mainly clergy, not lay people, clergy would say to him, you're psychic? "No, I'm not psychic." He did, he was, of course, but never used it and never said anything about my wife. My wife is psychic, but I'm not.
Wow.
Yes. But even he had knowledge and insight that was really incredible. Really incredible. You'd have to know him
Right.
to know that. But I guess, as you say, it was destiny.
Mhm.
From the 23rd of June, 1943, until I lost my husband in 2006. I took care of him for 4.5 years. He was full care patient. That was his room over there behind, right there. That's our bedroom, but the room where the hospital bed was right over there. And there's Ed right up there. That's how Ed lived just before he passed, right up there on top. And that's how Ed looked when we were married.
Huh.
That was that naval picture. And I'll show you our wedding picture.
Wow.
That's our life.
It's
That was a
fascinating.
beautiful story.
Really.
That's really who we are.
Again, it's been an honor to talk with you.
We're two people that I guess God had plans for.
Absolutely. Can I ask you, not to get off that, but you obviously came in to know Father Bob.
Yes,
And
that's
how,
been a
how did
pleasure.
that come about?
Oh, that was wonderful. I actually met Father Bob through Paranormal State,
Okay.
and we became friends right off the bat. See, my maiden name is Moran,
Mm-hmm.
and Bailey. You know, two Irishmen, you know, and when they get together, they don't separate real fast. So, in fact, don't forget, I'm going to Ireland in November. My family is from Ireland, and so we're going there. So when I was talking to our parish priest, he said, "What part?" I says, "Northern." Northern. A good Catholic like you is going to Northern Ireland? I said, "Father, be a little more open-minded. My relatives came from Southern Ireland, but I'm going to Northern Ireland to the university to speak."
So you feel like that was some sort of destined meeting as well? I know
Oh, yes.
you said, Father, that there are no coincidences,
No,
that
there's no
things
coincidence.
always happen for a reason.
And then at one point in our career, oh God, I don't know how far back, 1974. So we were probably at that time, regarding going public, that happened in the very late 60s. And then we started, well, the day that started was the day that changed our lives forever.
We're running a little bit out of time, so I want to thank you very much. We've been here in Monroe, Connecticut with Lorraine Warren, Father Bob Bailey, and for those of you who don't know Ed Warren, Lorraine's husband, we do have a photo of him here that we'd like to show everyone. This has been a talk about her life with Ed, their experiences. It's been such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for this.
You're
This has
welcome.
been an honor on behalf of myself and our group.
Thank
Father
you.
Bob, thank you. For those
Mary
of you
Poppins.
out there,
Mary Poppins.
as he calls it, the paranormal Mary Poppins. With that, I'm Jake.
And I'm Lou.
Good
Good
night.
night.